There's no question you're going to have stuff in your life. We all are going to. But if we don't have any joy in our life, and dance just brings joy into your life, just to have that even 10 minutes of joy will bring your body back to that, oh yeah, I know joy. And then boom, it's like a different relationship to all the experiences you have.
It feels good to move, doesn't it? Those times when you can just let go and be free. Dance around the living room like nobody's watching. We've heard that phrase before. Let the rhythm move through you and just be. We talk about that a lot here, don't we? About being a human being rather than a human doing on HIListically Speaking. But movement is healing. And I'm going to give you a perfect example. So a number of years ago, I went on a retreat in Costa Rica. Oh my goodness, it was the best thing ever. I went on as a attendee, wound up doing some havening with some of those who were attending. But then I was really curious about something going on in another room. And it was all dance and it was all movement. And suddenly I was like, I need a piece of that. They're all just dancing, breaking free, just being themselves. And I realized how important movement truly is because so much could be holding us back and weighing us down. And sometimes that inner voice comes in. Stop moving. You're bringing attention to yourself. Don't make a fuss. Just be still. And yes, there's room for stillness, but when that inner belief system, that BS, right, tells us that we need to calm down a little bit, and it's not a good thing, it doesn't feel good in the body. And we're not doing ourselves a service here. Not anymore. That is why I am so excited to have Toni Bergins here. She is an embodiment trailblazer. I love that. And you have been teaching at premier holistic healing centers for close to 3 decades now. You're on faculty at Kripalu, which is an amazing yoga and health center up in the Berkshires. And you've worked with movement and dance and expressive arts for years. And now, finally, you're putting it all together in the book, Toni. What a joy to have you here. I just want to like move around.
Thank
Say
you
yay.
so much. Yay.
Awesome. So great to have you here. And I know that this book is like years and years of what Toni's put together and grappling that body image wound, but truly giving people that freedom to just be. So can we talk about
Oh,
that?
sure. Anything.
Yeah. So what's the
Yeah.
big idea here about the book?
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's so funny how we start in one place and end up in another place, the journey of
Hmm.
life. The big idea is that through movement and music, we can enter an altered state of freedom of the mind and freedom of the body, and then do the healing work all the things that are repressed and that are kind of stuck in the areas of tension that get to release and move. And it's really an energy work, to be honest. Like dance to me is an energy work. So anybody can do it. It isn't about a dancer, it's about movement, music, and energy. That's the big idea. The big idea is that we could take ourselves and investigate ourselves from a different angle, because the mind is like, oh, I'm not thinking about anything right now, I'm just in the music. And then you get to go, ooh, what's really happening here?
I love that. And how often, going back to what I was mentioning about the belief system, and I know this is a big part of what
Absolutely.
you're putting into people's minds about the self-worth, the self-love, and just building yourself up and being free. Why do you believe that that idea comes in that I should, I'm bringing attention to myself? People are going to think I'm dancing weird.
Why does that come in? Oh my goodness, that's
Yeah.
just pure conditioning, programming, all the things we pick up from the external, from the society that
Mhm.
we're born into, the religion we're born into, the parents we're born into, the year we're born. I mean, it's all it's
Mhm.
all interconnected. Certain age groups are super wildly expressive and other age groups are not, because of the way we were, raised by our parents and these things. Now we're trying to like cap some of it, and we're trying to put, get more of it, get less of it. It's always something, the balance of expression. What my goal with that is to get people so comfortable in themselves that they can move however they want to move. And dance is anything. I always say, do you want to be perfect or do you want to be weird? Because perfect is way too much work and you never achieve it. And weird is just wonderfully fun and
Yeah.
resplendent and irreverent and all the things. But with the mind, what you just mentioned, my other goal is that we can hear begin to hear what's going on from a different perspective and say, oh, you know what? That thought is actually old and junky and crappy. And that's not even like related to this moment. Oh, I must be triggered or activated right now by something that's happening that's bringing that thought up because that's going to put me into my defense mechanism, my escape hatch, and I can just not deal with this. And I'll go there instead and make
Mhm.
that my truth instead of facing what's happening right in front of me, which is different from the past, right? It's really fascinating stuff how the mind works. It's tricky and brilliant.
Yeah, well, it's there to keep us safe. That's the whole
Exactly.
idea of it. It's designed to keep us alive and safe. And so when
Yes,
I have clients that come to me and say, "What's wrong with me?" I'm like, "There's nothing wrong with you. It's your brain. And your brain is doing exactly what it's supposed to be doing to keep you alive and safe. So, let's dance." Right?
absolutely. I mean, yesterday I was working with somebody who really was telling, like, I can see they're so nice. They're like, I call her, like, I said, you're Mrs. Nice Guy. You're Mrs. Nice Guy with so much anger repressed in the body,
Mhm.
unable to express it because of the way that they were raised and all the things they had to do in order to avoid pain. And we did a whole anger expression dance and just to let that energy start to move because when you move that kind of energy, it becomes power and you feel
Mhm.
energy. It's not that it has to be anger, but anger is, I call it power repressed. So someone has anger, it's because power's been repressed, or something was never spoken, needs to be spoken, or a boundary was crossed and was never healed. Like that's where all that tension in the body comes. And then we start to move it and just let it out and like dance it in a safe container, a supportive container where it's not affecting anyone. You're not externalizing it except through like through it in a dramatic sense. So journey dance and embody, the whole method has a psychodrama component woven into it in everything we do.
Love that. And the idea that you call it journey dance because life really is a journey and our movements will change over time, right?
Absolutely.
So let's talk about journey dance. This is something that you developed and has been a part of your being for quite some time. You come from a background in movement and dance, but what turned being someone who is involved in dance and movement into this can be a healing thing rather than I'm just a dancer and a mover?
Yeah, that's interesting. So I want to speak to that. Actually, I was not a trained dancer. I came
Mhm.
to dance at age 23 about. So I didn't
Mhm.
have all the structure, all the stuff everyone else has who's a dancer with quotes around it. And it was an amazing experience of dancing freely without mirrors and doing all the comparative stuff that we do to just feel this incredible sense of presence. It was like I came back into my body. I call it like the Tony puddle where I like slammed back into my body after years of dissociative behaviors that I didn't even know were
Mhm.
dissociation because we don't know what that is when we're younger. We don't know that this and that are signs of dissociation until we study this stuff, right? So I was literally, I call it the escape hatch in my book, like living in this like little escape hatch up over my head, like kind of in the body, but kind of not, just because not wanting to feel. And then when I finally slammed in and had the big, realization that the body's where it's at, that's where everything is stored. So that's where I started the healing journey. So the dance became a journey for me. Actually, when I remember in 1990, nine, I think is when I chose the name. I think it was 97. I have to look it up, but one of the two, I got the trademark Journey Dance because I thought this is different. I was like, I'm taking people on a journey. I didn't really know anything about, honestly, I didn't know anything about, alchemy or shamanic healing at that time. I heard of it like it was a distant thing that people
Mhm.
did, but I'd never experienced it. And meanwhile, we're going on journeys in the dance because the music takes us someplace. And then the
Mm.
guidance allows us to go deeper and deeper into these layers that you didn't even know were there until you're in there. So I called it journey dance because I was taking people on a journey. It was not about what movement we were doing or copying. It was about where am I going? What emotion needs to be released? What story am I telling right now to the dance floor?
Yeah. That's a really good point because I think in this day and age, we're all about storytelling. What's your story? Everyone has a story. There was a time when we thought about storytelling as just the written word or song,
Right.
telling it through lyrics, or, that just, I think storytelling has evolved so much in the use of the word storytelling that it really can be anything movement, song, stillness, even.
Mhm.
So, how powerful and how much a part of storytelling is involved with your work in movement and
And
journey dance.
I love that. I mean, I feel like the part of the book, I try to relate to other people who would have no idea
Yeah.
what journey dance is. I did relate a little bit to the hero's journey, just because that's the ultimate
Mm.
mythic story, right? So the mythic story of the hero is that you are the hero. You are the hero. Hilary, I'm the hero, right? Everybody is the hero of their own story. And that's what journey dance is. So we start by like what's the calling? The calling is, okay, I'm coming to the dance floor. I'm gonna take a journey. I'm gonna go in. I'm gonna see who I am. And it's really interesting because when you come to the dance floor in this particular container, journey dance, so the embody practice that I'm calling it now, embody, feel, heal, transform your life. It's like an assessment mixed with an experience, mixed with like a therapeutic healing session, mixed with a journey, like a journeying session. And there's imagery and all the things woven together. But basically, what happens is you start out, you get into your body. That's step one. Get into your body. We roll around the floor. We get every body part touched on the floor. I mean, it might be kooky to someone who's never done it before, but once you start rolling around the floor becomes like your lover. You're just like, oh my God, I love rolling around the floor. Then we come into the spine, like we awaken our energy body. We're like, okay, what's happening here? There's so much sensuality and power in this spine and this in the waves, like in yoga, which I did study for many years. And there's that cat cow posture. I'm taking it into a whole dance thing and using that mid level. That's where there's so much power and energy that we just shut down because we don't move in that way. We just sit at our computer or
Yeah.
we just walk or drive, right? So now we move up into this next place where I'm assessing like where am I in space? Proprioception. Where's my hand? Where's my body? Like, how does this thing move? What feels good? And we go into that space, which I call immersion. And then we get into connection with each other and we start to like feel really safe in the space, feel really
Mm.
present and good. Everyone has a different movement. There's no you're right and I'm wrong. There's none of that. It's just everyone's different. And then we get into what I call now we're hitting the ordeal. The hero is now like, okay, what did I really come here for? Right now, I've really arrived. What have I really come here? Well, you've come here to tell your story to the dance floor. What's going on in your life
Mm.
right now? So that's how I relate it to the hero's journey. Now I'm in this journey now. I'm in my story. I'm telling my story to the dance floor. You could tell the story of your ex husband. You could tell the story of your ex-wife. You could tell the story of your current relationship. You could tell the story of your children. You could tell the story of the world. Today, for example, we danced and we did a big purging, clearing, transmutation of the energy of the world because it's so intense at this moment.
Mm.
And as it always is throughout time, different times have different intensities, but it's really intense. So I say, how do we transmute that energy? So let's feel the icky and let's pull it through and transmute it into something different. So we do it through the body. We feel the anger, we feel the grief, we feel the sadness, we feel the joy, we feel all the emotions are present and allowed in the dance, right? So we're not outside like yelling and screaming. We're doing this in this very specific container. And that's
Mm.
what we call the ordeal, and then we go to the next phase, which I call alchemy, where we say, okay, now that I've faced my ordeal, I've told my story, I've processed all these feelings, I'm letting them be surfaced, I'm dancing with them. What do I want to do with all this energy? I want to
Yeah.
transmute it. So we do something
Mm.
like a visualization of a fire ceremony, or we do a visualization of a creation ceremony, or we build a garden, or we do something with this energy to transmute it. And then we go. So this is kind of how this is the story of it.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. They're ebb and
I
flow.
know every journey dance is this story, but it's different music and different moments in your moment. Like, where are you now? Where are you going to be next week? Where are you? Where are you tomorrow? It's always going to be a different story that you're telling, in a sense, unless you're stuck in a story. And that's why I love journey dance so much, because if I'm stuck in a story, I can tell that story 5,000 times to the dance floor and I won't bother anybody. It won't bother my therapist. It won't bother my shaman. It won't
Mm.
bother my psychic. It won't bother, right? I'm going to tell it myself till I'm cooked on it. And then I'm like, you know what? I've told the story enough times. Like, this has no power over me anymore. And all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, I'm done with that story. It could happen just through the dance.
Yeah, love that. And the beauty of this, telling the story doesn't necessarily mean vocalizing it, putting it out there. You're doing it through movement and it can be
Absolutely.
your own, it's your own personal story that nobody even might know what you're talking about unless you share it, which I imagine there's holding space for people to do that as well. But being able to do it on such it's so intimate, right?
Yes.
But a safe space is always the most important. But that intimacy and where you would just pique my interest too, because it aligns a lot with what the work that I do with the havening techniques is that sometimes people use words and words we give them meaning, like we're the ones that give them meaning,
Right.
right? And if you hear like, I'm tired, I'm overwhelmed, I'm
Yeah.
stressed, I'm hurt, you say that word with that kind of inflection, it is going to have power over you.
Right into
You
your
say it
body.
like,
Exactly.
right, you say it like Mickey Mouse or like SpongeBob or something, and I
Right.
do this sometimes. Suddenly it's like this word, I just disempowered this word
Right.
and took my power back. So it reminds me of that in a lot of ways, because your movement is yours and nobody has power over that but you. Never.
Absolutely.
Yeah, love that. I feel empowered and I'm sitting in my chair and I want to get up.
Yay.
Like, I feel like we should be doing this podcast walking around or
Well,
something.
we can put some music on and
We
dance
can like,
anytime.
woo woo. Love that. So, all of what you just shared, is this in the book? Is this part of Embody?
Yes, this is I wanna
Yeah.
offer this to everyone to have an opportunity to do their own work. The thing about the personal growth world, which is, just always been there, is that we have to it's
Hmm.
a commitment. It's not just like a
Hmm.
one and done, I take this course and I'm all healed. It's a practice, right? So to me, this is a
Mm.
practice, so I'm offering it as a practice. So after that, we go to celebration because you've made it through your ordeal, and we bring joy back into the body, and I really believe that joy is the key to all healing.
Mm.
I wrote this in the book about I call it my new equation. Resilience minus joy equals suffering. Resilience
Mm.
plus joy equals empowerment. So we're going to go through the stuff. We're going to go through the stuff. There's no question you're going to have stuff in your life. We all are going to. But if we don't have any joy in our life, and dance just brings joy into your life, just to have that even 10 minutes of joy will bring your body back to that, oh yeah, I know joy. And then boom, it's like a different relationship to all the experiences you have. And then we go into the heart, and then we go into the prayer, and then we go into the earth. So that's kind of how
I
we do
love
it.
it.
And the final dance, so when we're in our heart, we're talking to the inner children, we're talking to ourselves wherever we are in our lives. And then we go into the prayer, which is more meta. Like, okay, I can do this. I call it the prayer, even though there's so many different religious connotations for the word prayer. But to me, it means like, this is what I want for divine alignment. I want to be in right alignment with myself, with the world. I want the world to right align. And I let people they just move slow and with intention. How is this going to affect the collective? That's always the hope. Believe everything, believe nothing, and believe that you can affect the collective. If you get my meaning.
Absolutely. And the other thing it made me think about while you're talking about this is, has this process that you came up with and have worked on over years and have worked with so many people at so many places, has it helped you in your healing?
I wouldn't even do it if it didn't. I think that it all began as a healing journey for me,
Yeah.
always. And the one thing that I say to all my students in teacher training is your story is relatable. Your story matters. So if my personal medicine is every day I have to tell myself, I love you, my darling, I love you, my sweetie, to my body and to my heart, somebody needs to hear that. I
Mm.
don't say, here's what happened. This is what this person did to me. I don't do the detail storytelling, which can be very useful in therapy. But on the dance floor, I just say the part that everyone needs to hear. It's almost like you learn how to moderate your own inner voice and say, you know what, everyone needs to hear right now. Pick something up from the ground. Let it be a gift from the mother earth herself, and just bring it to your heart, whether it's a rock or a crystal or a leaf or a feather, whatever it is. Just remember you're part of nature. Like, I'll just that these things will come, and everyone could use that, right? Because we are
Yeah.
universally connected in the fact that we all
Hmm.
experience pain, we all
Yeah.
experience fear, we all experience anger, we all experience joy. Like, these are the things we know. And how do
And
we
we do
work
it together in
exactly?
community.
It's so
Right.
powerful when you do it together. It's
Yes.
magnified when everyone in the room is doing like really wild movements. And I'm like, look around the room, see how everyone is with you. You're not alone. It's an amazing feeling.
It reminds me a lot of when I'm sharing, especially in group and community, that like a tree grows, it's rooted, it weathers the storm, but below the surface that you don't see, those roots aren't disconnected from other roots. Like, they're connected to other trees
Yes.
and other plants, and so it's ecosystem based. Like, the power of community is what keeps us strong, But then
Yes.
knowing your inner strength. So that reminds me a lot of just being grounded, being able to be grounded, but being able to move and know that you can come back to center anytime. It's completely up to you. It's such a beautiful way that you're sharing.
I feel
You
so
know, I
lucky that this is the path I chose. I mean, it's not been the
Oh my
easiest
gosh.
path, let me tell you. But there's nothing more fun than coming to the dance floor. I don't care what
Yeah.
day it is, what month it is, what season it is, and what I'm going through in my life. Even if I don't want to do it, once I start doing it, I'm like, oh my God, I forgot. The body is a haven. It
Yes.
can be. I know for some people it
Yeah.
doesn't feel like a haven, and I want to
Yeah.
honor that. And I want to speak to that actually for a second. You said something earlier that actually piqued my attention, which is like, be small, be quiet, don't move too much, don't draw attention to yourself. And, it's fascinating how we change over time. Like I went to this concert the other night and I was like, oh, I could get up there in the front, and, like boogie down. But I was like, you know what? I was going to be in my own dance and stay in the way back
Mm.
and just move just for me. And that's what journey dance is to me. It's not performative. It's not about moving to impress or moving
Mm.
to, be like in the in crowd or any of that stuff. I was a misfit toy, like 100%. I always relate to the island of the misfit toys. Like I've
I
never fit
love
in.
that.
I was like, if I don't create my own community, I ain't gonna have no friends. I'm just saying, like, I had to create my own friends. And I did it
Oh my
because
God.
people liked what I did. So they're like, oh, I want to dance with you. I'm like, yay. And I say to my friends now, you don't know me if you haven't danced with me yet. And literally just the other day, because I wrote the book, a couple of friends of mine who've never danced with me came to my book launch party, a little small one that I did in my original town where I did a lot of dancing. And they were like, I have to buy the book now. I was like, yay. It was funny just to be with people because I think dance, it just it removes the masks, let's be honest. Like
Yeah.
if you're not dancing, I mean for performance. If you're dancing for performance,
Yeah.
that's different. If you're dancing for in this kind of style where it's like
Mm.
communion and connection and like being in your own story and being like yucky and weird and letting things go, like all that stuff, you just get to know people in a different way. You see beyond the masks of professionalism and all the stuff that we buy into. It's just all I have a lot.
And it's so easy. It's so easy to go there, especially in this digital age where we are watching like hawks, everybody doing everything, So it just
Oh, I
allows you to
know.
go back to center and just find what moves you, no pun intended, but yes,
Right.
pun intended. I do want to share also real quick
Yes.
the book, folks. If if you're listening, you're like, yes, I love that. Yes, show the book. Embody, feel, heal, and transform your life through movement. Grab it and make it kind of like the companion pocket guide to having Toni yourself, right? Like having Toni, like Toni's in your pocket. And I'm going to put the links to that in the podcast notes. And honestly, if you are touched, moved, and inspired, and I emphasize moved and inspired, pass this along to somebody else who might find it valuable. Share this podcast episode with just one person, and it could make a difference. And you know what? It might make a difference in your own life if you keep listening and pick up the book. So I got you covered on that, on Holistically Speaking.
Right.
You lived the corporate life living in New York. I mean, where did that
Yep.
shift happen where you're like, I'm out of here. Let's dance?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was, as I told you, it was this moment of reconnecting with my
Yeah.
body. It was beyond. And I wanna say this to people who are listening, I, definitely had a terribly negative mindset. I mean, I was, self-abusive, self-harming. I was, like, doing eating disorders. I was doing all the things, drinking, smoking, did some drugs, whatever the things are. I'm not gonna go into all the details, you know, all to avoid feeling, to be numb, because being numb seems way easier, but it actually isn't because it's not living. It's just stuckness. And I learned that the hard way by slamming into my feelings. And then I did tons and tons and tons of therapy, psychodrama, all the things. I'm a lover of psychodrama, which is when you take the internal landscape and you put it out in visual with other humans playing your parts.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think it's absolutely the most genius thing in the whole world to see yourself from the outside.
Mm-hmm.
And then you start to say, oh, I know that voice. That's my little girl who's so afraid of the screaming and the yelling that happened in my family, or that's my teenager that rebelled against this, that, and the other thing. There's so many parts of us that don't get to be seen or known. So with the dance, it's like sometimes I'm dancing, I'm like, oh, this is me at 13 when I was able to be like, hey, let's dance together. Oh, this is me at 16 where I'm going to shut down now because I became sexual. Or this is me at whatever. This is me at 5. I'm terrified right now because of this. Like I can find myself in all these places. And sometimes the dance feels like I'm just scooping myself back together. I'm just scooping all my wounded parts back together. Like that's kind of part of what it feels like. I really didn't want the book to just be a static thing. So I said to the designer, could you possibly make a flip book? So she did. So at the very
I love
back.
that. Oh my gosh, everyone, listen. We also look, this podcast is on all
Is that
like you just got me.
hilarious?
It reminds me of the old school the
Yeah,
movie,
like
I
being a
can't remember the movie
child.
pictures. That's what they used to call it. If you've been listening to this podcast on whatever platform, continue to do so. But don't forget, we also release this on YouTube at Hilary Russo is actually my channel, but I release all the podcasts there as well. So go over there and just check it out and just watch this one, and then you can go back to listening on your platform, or do both, because I release other content on there as well. That's great.
Isn't that
I
cute?
love it.
In the audiobook, I actually I really went like all the way to the edge. Like, can I put music in here? And I went and got licenses and did all these things because I really want people who are listening to the book on tape to actually be able to feel the practice. And then if you do buy the book, there's a little QR code. You go into the portal. We call it the portal. Of course, it's a website. It's a portal. And all the music playlists are in there and videos just galore. I
Yeah.
made 37 or 50 videos that would just go along with the book so somebody could practice, because I can't do this alone. I can't do this healing work. I can do what I can do. And I have 1,500 teachers trained and they can do what they can do. But at the end of the day, we got to do it. We all have to do it. We have to get back into our bodies, because we don't act with violence and abuse if we've healed ours, right? They say hurt people, right? So we have to, if we stop hurting ourselves, we will attract beautiful love that doesn't hurt us. We will do all the things, but we have to do it. We have to do it. And that is the thing. We can listen to a million podcasts and go to a million, conferences and classes. I've done it all. I've done all the classes. I've listened to the podcast. But if I don't do the practice, I'm not shifting, right? We got to shift. I call myself an energy shifter even more than a dancer. I'm a dancer because that's what people label it as, but movement is energy shifting.
Yeah.
It's literally it's shape shifting. It's saying I'm going to take this movement and I'm going to take this movement and I'm going to let them both be okay.
That's the place I want to go real quick, because what about those folks who maybe aren't as mobile, can't move as much, don't feel comfortable doing the dance or the movement? Like, what would be the first step in the Toni Pocket Guide to the
Mm.
journey that you would share with folks like that?
Well, the first thing I would say is, this is going to be, and this is a little bit edgy, but it's don't be afraid to feel. Because I think that when the emotions are allowed to release, movement happens just almost naturally, right? So if we're holding back tears, I remember when I was like, I don't know, different age, I don't remember how old I was. I used to get this really bad chest pain and I would feel like I had to cry, but I would suppress it. And it would actually become physical pain in my chest. And I was like, I have to cry. So I'd go and like sneak off into the other room and like shut the door and get into child's pose and just cry on my bed. And I learned that when I let that out, oh my God, so much energy began to move, right? It's really, I'm telling you, emotions are energy. And if we don't let them out, so when we're numb and we don't feel it and we're holding things back and we're constricted, and whether you have an injury and other things like that, that's different. But just bringing movement, even if you just listen to the music alone starts a movement cycle in your body, because we're so vibrational. We are vibration. We forget that. We think that we're just solid. And we're not solid. I'm just letting you know. There's a lot of
More
liquid and
liquid.
fluid and all kinds of stuff going on in these
Right.
in these miraculous bodies, right? I mean, how we even exist is still, it's incredible that we've evolved to this level that we can do all the things we can do. But listening to music puts you into that space. So even if you just listened to the music, that would begin because music is evocative. Music brings emotions forward. It brings states. I call it, the musical state. So if I'm playing embodiment music, it's very heavy and like boom, with lots of grounding. If I play funky music, it's like da 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 da, and like you start moving. You just can't help it. Your body starts moving. If I play like the alchemy, it's like you just start to shake. Like you can't help it. It's almost like start with the music. Don't start
I
with the
like
movement
that. Start
if you're
with the
feeling stuck.
music. Not right. And it
Everybody
makes
loves
me think,
music.
by the way, it's almost impossible to watch you and not move. I'm like sitting here and I'm
You're
like,
so cute.
I'm moving around. I'm like, I know I'm supposed to be kind of still so my chair doesn't squeak and all that, but I want to
I
move. Like I just want
love
to move.
it.
I do. And you're infectious in that manner. So again, if you're watching this on YouTube or you're listening to us over on one of the other platforms, come on over to YouTube just to get a little taste of Toni, because it's amazing. The one thing I do want to add on to that, which what you're saying
Yeah.
reminds me of this, is some even with Alzheimer's, dementia, and they hear music and suddenly you just see their hand moving, or like an old conductor and they
Absolutely.
remember the
Yes.
movement of the baton and what to do, or the movements as the ballerina who no longer can actually get out of her wheelchair. This is what I'm thinking
I
when
am
you
so
do
with you.
this. It doesn't mean you have to get up and like tap dance like you're Fosse. It just means like it just means like just like one small movement with the hand. It's just that's art, you know? So it can be anywhere, anywhere.
Absolutely, and that is I call it so during what I call immersion is when you literally just become fascinated with your own
Yeah.
hand and you see how does it move? And then you talk to the other hand, which doesn't really move much. It's like, "Oh, I am awkward," because we have like our dominant and
Mm,
non-dominant, but when you bring them together, they're like, "Oh, now I can move just like that because I have this incredible brain that does all these things." But I want to go back to what we are talking about with one of the journey dance teachers years ago, a lovely woman from Florida started teaching in nursing homes, and she specifically designed the music to evoke memory and said she sent me a video one time where this woman who was nonverbal, completely nonverbal, the nurses and the practitioners who all worked at the nursing home were just they were stunned when she suddenly said, "I used to be a dancer." And that's what she said. That's all she said. And I have the video somewhere, but
oh my gosh.
I cried. I just cried and cried and cried. So the thing about the journey dance music is I actually try to not
Mm,
evoke memory. I try to play music that you wouldn't know. That's just I call it quality driven. And occasionally I'll throw
mm,
in like a pop tune that you would know because I
mhm.
don't want to associate necessarily to the past, but sometimes I do. It's an interesting journey being a DJ and
Yeah, I was
deciding
gonna ask you
what's
that as
what's good
well, is
right
that
now.
it's not just
You know.
about you being the
Yeah.
teacher of this movement, and by the way, you're not really even teaching the movement because they're doing it what they want. You're not the choreographer, they're the choreographers of their own of
Right.
themselves, but
Yes.
you're also the
Yes.
DJ, you're making conscious choices of the music that you're using, and I love that you're touching on this. So does most of the music not have lyrics for that purpose?
It's a mix, it's a big mix. So, lots of non-lyrical music, especially for the first parts, but then when we get into that section I call the ordeal, the evocative emotion, I will throw in lots of different kinds of lyrics that could actually be stimulating so that you can feel the feeling that we're aiming to evoke. So the thing that I find most fascinating about DJs and music and all of that is that we are DJs all would agree with me, I pretty much think we are manipulating, wielding, shaping, forming, artistically
Mm,
creating the landscape. So if we want people to go into places that are really intense and hard, we're going to push that edge of that music. If we want them to be in high vibration, like woo, 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 we're going to do that, right? We can do anything. In journey dance, it's very specific. And in the embodied practice that I'm offering in the book, the music is the actual flow of my work, which is actually kind of like I call it a W. So it goes down into the earth and it comes up, then it goes down into the emotions and it comes up, and then it goes down into the earth again. So it's got these waves and cycles where you go really, and you can get really ecstatic and have a great time at the high
yeah,
points.
that is
But
like I
that's
was just thinking
life. You know
that.
what I mean? I tried to live at like the high points of life.
And then everything changed.
No, I,
Yeah,
I love my babies, but they're older now. They're adults, and that's a whole nother world for me, a whole new world, learning how to be this person. But it's great because we
yeah,
have all the different things, and we
yeah.
experience everything in life, love and heartbreak, and grief and loss, and rebuilding, and hope and inspiration, and oh,
It's a journey.
it's a
It's a
journey.
dance, really. I mean, life is a dance.
Yeah. I love that yeah, I love that you have this practice. I wanna learn more about havening because it's just like with journey dance, like, I want people to come and experience it and do it
Mm,
week after week after week or month after month, whatever it is, and keep growing and expanding their
mhm,
possibility, right? I call it expand your bandwidth, right? If I can feel this much of my feelings and I get more joy access, right? That's at the end of the day, everybody wants joy, let's not lie, right? We all want the joy access. But if we
mhm.
can't feel the sorrow, it's like the prophet, the on joy and sorrow, they make the guitar out of like a log. They have to like carve into
Mm,
the log, to make a guitar that eventually plays. It's like we take one thing and we
yeah.
transmute it into another thing.
And as you're talking about that, I'm thinking like the idea of bringing different practices together just makes me giddy. So when you just asked about even wanting to learn more about havening,
Yay!
I'm always open to collaborating and seeing how we can bring that all together. I mean, that would be a beautiful thing to do. I could see it. And I do a lot of when I do a lot of
Mm.
self-havening, I'm moving around and dancing too. There are times I do it even when I'm in movement. So there's so much that we can put into that toolbox, or the brain candy jar, as I call it, that just allows you to embrace the sweetest ways to be kind to your mind, right?
Well, just to be funny, I have to tell you, so I, years ago, like, my mind was not
Mm,
something that I could be kind to. It was taking me down. So the mind is this is the thing I talked about just in my teacher training a couple weeks ago. We do the dance, we do the body so that we can actually
right.
be with the mind. Because the mind is always active, right? The body, you can go running, you can dance, but
Mhm,
the mind's always active, right? So how you work with the mind is even, I mean, to be
mhm.
honest, it's the essential key factor. So, what I love about the dance and the music is it takes the mind out of its regular operating mode, puts it into an altered state. So you're
Mhm.
actually not troubled by it, right? You can listen to it, talk to it, decide, oh, I'm going to release this old thought of I'm not good enough, or I'm too this, or too that, or too this, or too that, all the crap, all the judgments. You can just say, I'm going to purge this today. And then when you hear it again, you're like, oh, I purged you. You need to go. So I started this thing called mind busting because I was trying to be funny, like Ghostbusters, when I think it was like one of the Ghostbusters movies was remade. And I was
Sadly.
like, oh my God, mind busters. I'm just going to go get it out, spray green goop on it, let go of that thought. So I did this whole thing. So in the book, I do teach about my mind busting techniques, I call them, which is the rough
Yeah,
stuff. It's where you look at, like, what are my beliefs that I'm
yeah.
carrying? Like, someone said to me the other day, I'll never heal until I feel whole. And I said, is that true? And they were like, I said, what would make you feel whole? Oh, if I could embrace all my parts. I said, okay, well, what if that belief brings you into a negative bodily state every time you say it, I'll never be whole till I can embrace all my parts. You're basically setting yourself up for pain. If you say, I am whole as I learn to embrace my parts, like, we can tweak language
Yes.
in such a way that literally changes the way our body
Right, and
feels.
the what if is a very powerful question. It's what follows it that
Yes.
matters, because we
I did get that from Abraham Hicks, not lying. What if, right? What is it, what is her thing? Wouldn't it be nice if I loved myself? That's so much better than I'm learning not to hate myself, right? Like,
right, and then negative, right? The brain is designed to go to the negative. It's the lazy brain.
absolutely.
It's the shorter route. It's if it had ways, it would be like, "Let's go that way. It'll get me there faster." Right? The idea
You're so
it's true
funny.
though. So, like, it's up to us to be like, "Can we just take the long and winding road? Like, it's cooler. It's
Right.
okay. Don't worry. You're
Yeah.
safe. Don't worry."
It's a
Right.
journey though. You have to build the resilience with your own, like, you have to build that
Yes.
muscle. I drew this picture once. I called it the changing station. So if I get a thought that I don't like, I have less than a split second to say, "No, mind busting," or it goes into the body and I'm feeling it, right? And now I'm feeling the sadness because I thought, "Oh, blah, blah,
Now I
blah,
have
blah,
that
blah.
stupid Ghostbusters song in my head.
Sorry." Change it to mind
Mind
busters, you'll love it.
busters. All right.
So that's kind of the
Love it.
idea. So I want people to get so aware of their bodily sensation that then when you start to feel like the other day, yesterday, I felt this wave of sadness. I heard something and it was so sad, and I just felt this wave of sadness, and I didn't have a moment to cry. I had to stuff it. I was like, oh my God, I am stuffing it right now. I'm consciously stuffing it. And then I literally was like, I have to unpack this. And as soon as I was done with my business, I ran to my room and let it out. And that is, I think, the biggest thing. When you let the feelings out, the movement will come.
Yeah, focus on the music first, then the movement, and just be okay being. I think that's really hard in this day
Yeah.
and age, especially the digital age where we're overwhelmed with images and swiping and this and that. It's like, step away. Like, step away. It's so nice when we get to step away, isn't it?
Oh my God, yeah. I have a rule. If I'm down the rabbit hole of, any
Doom
of I
scrolling.
won't say all the names of all, yeah, any 2 minutes more than my usual that I allow, I'm
Yeah,
out. I just get off, but I'm very
that's so
disciplined.
good.
I'm off,
Yeah.
yeah, because I can't allow my emotional state, my
Mhm.
self-regulation is so cultivated and important to me.
It's sacred.
Yeah, that I have to work this every
Yeah.
day, and of course I wanna help the world and I wanna do good things and I wanna be part of of saving humanity,
Right.
whatever you wanna call it. I don't know what else to say. That's kind of an overarching statement. I wanna be part of
Yeah.
reawakening the body and people to be in compassion, so I have to cultivate my own
Well,
self-regulation at all times, otherwise
it's
I'm
very
useless. Yeah.
common, and you probably have heard this numerous times. It's so easy for those of us who are in the business, if we're gonna call it a business in this day and age, of
Yeah.
being of service, whether you are a doctor, a
Right.
coach, a practitioner, a teacher, whatever, to
Right.
deplete from our own tank because we were like, I want to help them heal. I want to help them on their journey.
Mm,
And before we know it, we are depleting our own tanks, which is one of the things I really love to focus on because it's a reminder to self too that you being saying no to others means saying yes to yourself, which in turn is
mm,
saying yes to others, right? You can't do it the other way.
mhm,
So
really.
I'm glad that you do that. I'm glad you're not doom scrolling because it's not,
Yeah, I
no, you
can't.
can't.
I mean, I do a
It's
little, I
okay. Like
can't
we're
lie. It's a little
human.
bit rough right now, but
Right.
I try not to.
Right. I want to mention the book one more time, and we're going to put that in the podcast notes again. It's called Embody, Feel, Heal, and Transform Your Life Through Movement. Thank you for being my
Woohoo!
model, Vanna White, of your own book. Here's a question for you. As somebody who is in the
Yeah.
process of authoring her book, what moved you, really stressing that word, moved you into the space of actually authoring a book after so many years of just being in this journey dance of actually saying, I'm going to put this in a book? Or did somebody come to you?
But this whole idea of
Mhm.
embodiment, a lot of people, it's like embody has become like this huge
Mhm.
buzzword. And I went studied a lot of things, a lot of different folks and did a lot of different things. And I felt like we're all in our heads still. And I really want to explain that embodiment can also happen by through the body and through movement. We can't think ourselves into
Mhm.
embodiment. You can't. You have to physically enact yourself. So I think I felt like I was at a point in the career kind of world that I was like, what is next for me? Like, I'm not sure what is next for me. I think I just want to get this out there. I want to get this medicine out there in a bigger way. And I had an agent who I'd met years ago, and I said, I think we should do it. She's like, great, let's do it. So I did that whole thing and went down the whole publishing route, which is a whole nother story for a whole nother podcast, and what that all means and, all the things that go with it. But I say, and I'm super, super happy to have written this book because there's a story in each
Mm.
chapter about my life and how and why this is what it is and how important it is. Or it's about, I even told the story about my grandfather. He was a man who didn't live his
Mhm.
dream. And that is a very common theme in a family of origin
Yeah.
story. So, like, having this talent or this gift, not putting out into the world and going and doing a different job instead, because that's what was
Yeah.
expected of you. And that's kind of that was where I was at. I was working in PR in New York City. It was a great looking job, but it was not fulfilling for me emotionally. Then I became a teacher, which I also loved, but I still felt like something was missing. And then the dance was just it for me. And I said, I'm just going to do this. And my grandfather, it's a funny story. I wrote it to kind of the very end of the book, but it's called Eat the Cookie. So if you want to hear about it, you'd have to read the book. But it's basically eat the cookie,
Yeah,
people.
it's okay. The
Just one,
calories
but
aren't
eat
gonna
it.
kill you. I love that. Eat the
Yeah,
cookie. Oh
exactly.
my god.
Eat the cookie, meaning like live
Yeah.
your dream, like not your dream, because that's like a little bit out there and woo woo, and I'm not woo woo. It's more like you have a gift, right? You have a gift. Every single one of us has a gift, and either they get cultivated or they don't. And not everyone's going to be a TikTok star. That's not going to happen, right? But you might have a gift that's so needed for this world. It has nothing to do with
Mhm.
anything anybody would ever known. And if it doesn't get shared, then that's the tragedy because you come here as a soul and you want to live it.
Love
You want
that.
to live that
Eat the
life.
damn cookie.
So the book is a discovery for myself as well. It's like a self-discovery in writing the book. Like, because I had like some
Mhm.
trauma.
We didn't really get into your own story, and I think this is really important and valuable to share that we're talking about trauma, we're talking about how journey dance can be a part of that healing journey, and I wanna give you the space to share a little bit.
Interestingly, in our lives, we have lots of little bitsies of trauma, some big ones, some small ones, and they add up, right? They add
Mhm.
up over time to create this nervous system that we have. The way our parents, spoke, yelled, messages that were given, all the things. In my personal history, I became very shut down. By the time I was like 16,
Mhm.
I was just like a curled up flower, like squished, like a dried flower, when you're just like, blah, I want to disappear. My mind was very negative. I had some like my family of origin. There was a lot of yelling, a whole bunch of screaming. I do talk about it in the book, and you know it affected my nervous system. So I kind of ran on this hyper vigilant nervous system for a long time. I also was attacked at one point in my life. I won't go
Mm.
into the whole story here, but it does affect the nervous system like for the
Mhm.
like it's like having like eyes in the back of your head all the time. It's very exhausting. And then I didn't feel safe in my body. So I used that as my defense mechanism and did everything to be a number outer and all that. And the mind was just a total mess because of other like we pick up the
Mhm.
things that are being said around us. We're like little sponges. And I was the youngest, and there was a lot of pain and a lot of sadness in my sisters and other things and my mom and then my dad. There was just all, every family has its own story, right?
Sure.
So, and as much as I love them, as close as we are, I admit that like I feel that my nervous system was hijacked by everybody else. And, I remember coming in to this world, my big sister always say, "Oh my God, you were the cutest thing. You were dancing around with your little red hair." And I was like, "Oh, that's so funny. I don't remember any of that. I just remember all the pain and all the difficulty, you
Yeah.
know." Um, but what I learned from having the hyper vigilant nervous system is that I was always very often afraid. And fear is a yucky vibration in
Mhm.
the system. And it makes the system, it makes you shut down, like shoulders curl in, protect the self, hide the feminine form, especially for women, hide the feminine form, all the things that we do. And maybe we layer it with more body parts, but more body because we're hiding because we've had the beauty wound, we've been harmed. There's a lot of things that can happen, and for me, it was more of a hypervigilant nervous system. Lots of protection. It was very hard for me to be in relationship one on one, but over the years, I have danced out so much material. Like I remember I used to say my favorite thing was burning, the anger, the rage, the burning. Because in my family, I didn't rage, I was raged at, right? So I learned to rage
Mm.
later, let me tell you. But when you're little, you don't rage, you run, right? You
Right,
hide, you sneak
right.
into your room and you hide under the covers, like get away from me. Um, so hopefully that's what happens to you. You get away from it. Some people actually experience physical abuse. So there's a whole nother levels of trauma. So I just want to honor that wherever you are, you can peel back these layers and eventually find safety in the body. But it may take years of doing these practices where you become safer in the body. You let yourself
Yes.
feel. And by doing that, I was able to get to like a place where I felt like I could open my heart in a way that I've never opened it before, even recently. I mean, I think that I really think healing is truly a journey. It really is. And I think every person has this buildup, and eventually you make a decision like, I have to work through this stuff because something happens, right? We don't work through it until we feel the rub,
Or the
right?
resistance, right? Like,
Exactly.
it's that awareness is the first step to any change. If you're just
Absolutely.
walking through life and like, "Ah, this is the way it is," you're not in a state of awareness,
Right.
right? Once you hit awareness, which is so powerful when folks are first introduced to the fact that, yeah, you're there, that's step 1. Like, step
Right.
1 has
Yeah.
to happen,
Right. You
you know?
know that you need to make a shift, right? There
Yeah.
it is. And it's like, okay, well, how do I do this? How do I unpack this?
And if it feels uncomfortable, that's good, because you don't like the way it is, and your higher self
Right.
knows, "This isn't the way I wanna be." So, yay you for having that. Yay you for
Yes.
standing in the tension, you
Yes,
know?
I always say, like, it takes so much courage to come to these places to do these things. It
Absolutely.
takes so much courage to even go to therapy. It takes so much courage because what are they gonna ask? What are you gonna say? What's
Yes.
gonna come out, right? So for some people, therapy is the answer. For some people, there's a million different forms of therapeutic, incredible somatics and things now. And for some people, it's gonna be dancing. It's gonna be that I'm gonna get comfortable in my body again through movement. And then I'll go and tell my stories and have my check-in with my people. I call it takes a village to build a person. You
Mhm.
gotta have everybody on speed dial. I have like, the psychic, the shaman, the psychotherapist, the body worker, the somatic healer, the chiropractor. Everybody is all around, the physical therapist, all the things so that you can make yourself.
Heal is an
Yeah,
odyssey, yeah, and I love that. We definitely we don't do it alone. We don't do that's why this podcast exists. That's why Holistically Speaking is something, because I know that every person that comes on this show, including yourself, is a master class for me to learn something new, and for those who are tuning in to be touched, moved, and inspired and learn something and maybe take away just one little thing, even if it's just one tiny thing of what the whole embody and journey dance is all about. One thing is one thing more than you had yesterday, right?
yeah. I just had a funny memory pop up. I just have to tell you. I remember I was like 17 and I was at like a high school dance, like the horror of my existence. Like I was like so shut down. But the one thing that I could do, unbeknownst to me, was dance. And I remember the songs coming on, and I'm just like, I have to move. And I'm like on this dance floor going crazy, like doing like I was break dancing. I mean, this is like the era of break dancing when I was a teenager. And we're like, oh my God. And I'm up in the air and I'm doing this. And people come up, they're like, who is that? 'Cause no one anyone knew me. I was like a fly on the wall, with a little bit of a personality, but I certainly wasn't someone that people knew. And they were like, "Oh my god, Toni was dancing."
That reminds me of the movie Can't Buy Me Love, where he learns the African dance and then he's like, "This is what everybody's learning. This is the dance." And he goes out there. This is before McDreamy was McDreamy, right? When Patrick Dempsey was
Exactly.
total nerd. And he goes out there and he does this like crazy African dance that he learns on like American Bandstand,
Oh my
and
god.
or he thought was American Bandstand. It was actually
Right,
like the PBS station. And
right.
he goes out and he does it, and everyone's like,
So funny. Okay, yeah. No,
like
with me,
that's
they were
just
kinda like, "Oh, that person might be interesting," but
right.
I never let anyone know me or had I wasn't available at that time.
Right, but you were freeing yourself without even realizing you were freeing yourself, which was
And
it's
and
kinda
what it makes
cool.
me think of is, like yeah, and on top of that, I think that the dance brings you into intimacy with yourself.
Mm,
And when you can be intimate with yourself and, like, let yourself be like, "Oh, this is how I move. Yum." All of a sudden, you're like, "Oh, hello, world. Like, I am here,
mm,
and I can be seen." And I think it's a human need to be seen and to
yeah,
be known, and
and heard, validated, yeah.
exactly, and we don't allow that out by hiding, and not that I mean, I'm not push anyone into anything ever, I always say it's an invitation, but I invite everybody to come and dance and feel, and I actually teach, my team and we have, 4 amazing teachers, and we teach every Tuesday at 12 o'clock. It's a thing. It's not I know it's not the perfect time in everyone's schedule, but it happened to be a thing that happened when we went online. It was Tuesdays, it was called Transformation Tuesdays at 12. So we kept it,
I
and,
might have to check this out.
yeah, it's a big thing. It's really fun, and hopefully it'll, like, completely come back to life, and
Love that.
people will come dancing with us there.
Love
Yeah.
that, and then, be able to see you in person at Kripalu, I would love to do that as well, and just yeah, we're like buddies now, besties.
Yeah,
Besties
Omega. I'm gonna
forever.
be in Costa Rica this year too doing a
Oh, I
retreat,
love
all the
it.
things, so
You're all over the place. Okay, we're gonna play a game because I wanna be
okay,
mindful
let's
of your
play the
time,
game. Let's
and
play
then
the
we can
game.
continue this on, another conversation.
Excellent.
There's so much for all of you to hear here, but you know what's coming, my friends. It is rapid fire. Here's how it happens, Toni. I'm going to throw out a word of something you said during this conversation. You're going to come back with one word, first thing that comes to mind. We're going to do a little word association here on
Okay.
HIListically Speaking. You ready?
Yes.
All right, here we go. Dance,
Trance,
movement,
joy,
steps,
yay,
wounds,
feel it,
practice,
progress,
transform,
shift,
embody,
butterfly,
DJ,
love,
healing.
needed,
Gotta ask, gotta put this last one in there. Cookie.
eat it, baby.
I wrote that down like last minute. I love it. That's so good. Eat it, baby. Eat the cookie, everybody. Eat the cookie
Yeah.
and just dance, embody, do
The
it.
story was I baked him a bunch of cookies, so it was a whole story about, like,
I love that.
it's a little love story with my grandpa. Yeah.
Well, we're going to put all the links in the podcast notes for you to grab the book, Embody, Feel, Heal, and Transform your life through movement. And Tony's got this book coming out. Look at her. You're like totally just, you're ready. You're ready. You're ready. Love it.
I just have to show it because I love the cover.
I
It's a
know.
radiant body.
It's really pretty. It's a beautiful book. I love the colors, and I'm sure it's colorful on the pages in between, especially with the little movement at the bottom. I've never seen that before, so I love that.
Yeah, it's
And I
very
just want to give you a moment. Is there anything you want to share with those who are tuning into this episode? What would you like to share with them?
well, if you're still listening, it means a lot to me. And it means that you are ready to take a risk. And I feel like I might cry because this always happens at the end of all these podcast interviews. People ask me what I would like to say, and it's that healing and love takes risk. We have to be willing to feel and experience life. And that's a risk. And it can be scary. And I want to honor that and say, let's bring it on and live this life, I have a limited amount of time left. I'm pretty sure of that. At the age that I am, I know my limitations, but maybe not. Maybe I could be 112 and I'll have 50 more years. But point being, we may as well do it. It's worth the risk.
It's worth the cookie.
Yeah.
Maybe even a dozen cookies.
Depends on where you are in your healing journey.
Right. Don't sell yourself short. You can put them in the cookie jar. Take what you need, my friends. Take what you need, everybody.
On that one.
Right, I love that. That's really great.
Agree.
Thank you so much for sharing. This is such a gift having you. I love meeting new people and then realizing I'm like, wait, you're being added to the Rolodex.
Yay.
You're in the Rolodex. So
I'm really excited about this. This is the one I was looking forward to the most. Even my manager, she's like, this one looks really good. This is right up your alley. Say yes to this one.
Well, I'm touched. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
It is time to get moving, my friends. So I invite you to grab a copy of Toni's book, Embody, Feel, Heal, and Transform Your Life Through Movement, and check out JourneyDance.com. I put all of the info in the notes of this episode so you won't miss a thing. And you heard us talk a little bit about havening techniques. If you want to learn more about this CPR for the amygdala and how to hug it out with me, I shared all of those details as well as upcoming havening happy hours, including the trainings and certification I have coming up, and even the opportunity to work with me one-to-one. Take advantage of it. It's all in the notes of this podcast. HIListically Speaking is edited by Two Market Media with music by Lipbone Redding, and of course, supported by you. What a gift you are for joining me week after week and being part of this very special podcast. I can't do this without you. So on that note, I just want to encourage you to let go. Dance like nobody's watching. Be your own DJ. Play music. Tell your story. You've got it in you. I love you. I believe in you. And I am sending hugs and music your way. Be well.
I know the girl with mountains